Turner going to give it to Crosby. If he gets outside, look out, and he does just that. 10, 20. Look at Samir Crosby go inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. Samir Crosby.
Live from our Seton Hill University studios, this is Westmoreland on the Gridiron on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Here's your host, Sean Meyers.
And we welcome you into another episode of Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean and Dan talking about Westmoreland County High School football, a little bit of college football mixed in as well. And Flick, a big show to get to as we're nearing the end of the regular season already. We're going to run down the Week 7 scores and top performers. Of course, plays of the week. We've got some interviews with Greater Latrobe head coach Ron Prady and Carson Heinley, the quarterback for the Kiski area Cavaliers, selected as our player of the week, and look ahead at the penultimate week of the regular season with the Week 8 preview. But first, some big takeaways. As I mentioned, we're down to the final few weeks now. You start to get a pretty good idea of playoff picture. We already had some teams qualify that we'll talk about, but a game that had major playoff implications and a good rivalry game, GCC and Jeannette, and it was the Centurions who came back furiously on the road in the second half. GCC prevailing 42-24. I know you were there and said that it was really the two stars that kind of took that game over for Greensburg Central Catholic. Tyree Turner, who I was super impressed by when I saw him at Clairton, and then Samir Crosby, a homecoming of sorts for the Jeannette native who made it, I guess, an unpleasant homecoming in a sense for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'm sure the Jeannette fans that attend games each and every week, seeing Samir celebrate, kind of put a dagger in them a little bit, and especially in the second half. And yeah, it was a really good game, Sean. The final score certainly was not indicative of how the game went. I mean, heck, Jeannette had an 18-7 lead at one point in the game before Greensburg Central Catholic roared back and had that massive second half. And to me, it kind of broke down to three things being important factors in the game. Number one, Noah Sanders fumbled with Jeannette up 18-14. Greensburg Central Catholic gets the fumble recovery and scores a touchdown. The game, I thought, changed really right there, especially the momentum, but certainly the score as well as Greensburg Central Catholic went up. I mean, how can you fault Noah? He's running with one hand right now because of an injury. Anthony D'Annunzio said he didn't remember him ever fumbling in his career. So, it happens. And it was just a key part of the game that really turned a lot of things in Greensburg Central Catholic's favor. I thought Austin Emery being injured, Jeanette's kicker, played a factor into the game. He got injured a couple of days before the football game in a soccer match. Did Jeannette lose by a couple of points that would have, changed if Emery was healthy? No, but I think they lost a lot of momentum because, their backup kicker, Mitchell Steele, had some extra points blocked. They went for two a couple of times, didn't get them. I think that kills your momentum. Plus some kickoffs as well that Samir Crosby took back for not for a touchdown, but for a lot of yards and put GCC in good field position. So that hurts you in kickoffs as well. I thought that played a factor into the game. And the other factor that certainly played a big point in the game in the second half, like you mentioned, it was the Tyree Turner, Samir Crosby show. I mean, those two guys just totally took over the game. I think Jeannette maybe was a little bit winded at that point. They did suffer some injuries in the game as well. And so I think that they were a little bit gassed, and those guys just absolutely took over, especially in the second half. As you mentioned, Tyree Turner keeping plays alive, Samir Crosby just using his outstanding athleticism. There were some penalties that hurt Jeannette as well, in the game, but I do think those were the three biggest factors that allowed Greensburg Central Catholic to win. But it was nice to see that, again, the final score not being indicative of how the game was. We've seen a lot of blowouts in this series, wins on both sides, but I thought this game was much closer.
And you mentioned the kicker being out for Jeannette, and I think that's even more magnified because GCC has a pretty good one in Jacob Reitler. I was really impressed by him when I saw him earlier this season. So that was clearly an advantage for the Centurions. Tyree Turner, he's put up some really, really good numbers this year and all throughout his career. But at least for me, I see the numbers, but I say, okay, he's, playing in Class 1A against some teams that just don't have the talent that he has around him. But what he's able to do with his strength, he can extend plays because he does not go down on first contact. And so not just throwing the football, running it, he has made such a great impact. And more than anything else, I think the fact that he's become probably the leader on a team that does not have many seniors after they lost so many guys from last year, that might be his best attribute.
Yeah, he certainly is the leader of the offense, plays on both sides of the ball, actually. And just the way that he's able to extend plays and use his tremendous athleticism, and him and Samir Crosby certainly have, a great relationship with one another, both basketball players as well. And let's be honest, when you're playing at the single A level and you're a specimen like Tyree, you're going to put up those big numbers too, because you're going to go up against some teams that, you can kind of do that too, right? Where there maybe isn't as many of those guys that can match up against you athletically, like
right.
Tyree Turner. So I think that.
But he's doing it against the best teams in that conference.
Yeah,
now.
It doesn't matter who he's going up against. I mean, even against Clairton, the game you did, he still, even though GCC lost the game, I mean, he still played really well. And it's just a dual threat too. You're on defense, and you always have to be aware of him running the football. They do a lot of good things on offense as well. GCC, they had some trick plays in the arsenal. When you have Crosby in the backfield, it makes things very dangerous as an opposing defense to scout.
Yeah, I do wonder, is he going to be the quarterback next year with how explosive he is as a receiver and a running back? It's going to be creative ways to use him no matter what, whether he's the quarterback or not. But right now it's just a luxury to have both he and Turner together. They came through in a big, big way. That's a big one for the Centurions. They now have, of course, the tiebreaker over Jeannette, although not all was lost for the Jayhawks. We'll revisit that momentarily. I also want to talk about Kiski area, and we're going to hear from their star quarterback, Carson Heinley, in a little bit. They were one of the teams that had a back against the wall mentality, had to win the game to keep postseason hopes alive. They were able to do that against a pretty good Highlands team, 36-21. And so for the Cavaliers, it's been a rough couple of years. I didn't really expect that they would be in contention down the stretch run of the season, but that's a massive victory against a Highlands team that I think's been fairly impressive. I mean, they're above 500 entering that game. And for the Cavaliers, it's also probably a cool little thing to get your head coach a victory going back to Highlands. Remember, Sam Albert for many, many years guided the Golden Rams. So a nice little side story, but they get a massive victory, and one that keeps their postseason hopes alive. And you truly do see what a team and what players are made of when they have to win to keep their season alive. Obviously, every play is magnified. They were able to step up and deliver.
Yeah, and if you remember a couple of weeks ago, Kiski won their first conference game against Indiana in a long time, their first conference win in a long time, beating Indiana, I should specify. So, it's a case where you try to build off that momentum, and coming into this game, I don't know that a lot of people would have said the Kiski area was going to win it, but I feel like when you have a quarterback like Carson Heinley, you can win any game. I feel that way about Tristan Tavares, honestly, at Norwin. I know that, we'll talk about that in a little bit. The defense certainly has been an issue, but I don't know, when you have a really good quarterback, you can hit big plays, you can do big things, and big things happen. And I thought that's, what Carson Heinley did since taking over, for LeBron Smith last year. He started the season as a JV quarterback last year, and then he was thrust into varsity, put up big numbers last year, continues to put up big numbers this year as well. He attended the Manning camp over the summer, which maybe helped him out a little bit too. So, and he's spreading the wealth a little bit. Obviously, Isaiah Gonzalez, has been his number one target, but he's gotten some other guys involved as well. And I thought a big point of that game, Kiski was up 29-21. In the second half there. So it was a really close game. And actually, I think Highlands had just scored, and Kiski Heinley actually hit Gonzalez. It should have been a touchdown pass. He should have actually had 4 touchdown passes, but he dropped the ball. And then their kicker, Andrew Finney, misses a 32-yard field goal. So at that point, the ball goes back to Highlands. It was actually in the fourth quarter this happened. And you're thinking, maybe Highlands would be able to come back, but
especially at home. Yeah, they got the crowd and the momentum on their side.
All that stuff going on. But they had a 4th and 4, and their drive stalled, and then Kiski responded with a 24-yard touchdown run, and they won the game at that point. They put it away. So you face some adversity there if you're Kiski area, things don't go your way, but the defense comes up with a big stand, and then the offense quickly basically puts the game away, with a touchdown run. So I'm sure Coach Albert had to like the way his team responded. After the game, he actually said that Carson was one of the toughest players that he's ever coached because of the way that he not only throws the ball but can run the ball as well.
Yeah, and that's high praise coming from Sam Albert, a guy who's been around a long time and clearly has that old school mentality. But, when we run down these top performers, and we'll get to that a little bit later on, we constantly are seeing these Kiski names on there. Heinley, Isaiah Gonzalez, their running back Landon Kuchich, who put the game away, to your point. How about Bart Martin this week? Terry Bart Martin, a monster performance, over 150 yards receiving. So even though the record's not where you would hope it would be, I think that, the fact that they have all these different guys stepping up, some of whom are going to be around for future seasons as well. They've clearly figured out different guys that they can get involved and seemingly have a different guy step up every week to produce.
And again, much like Norwin, Tristan Tavares has numerous targets. Luke Denny has lit up the WPIAL world this year. But obviously you got Jackson Pons there as well and some other guys. But yeah, nice to see that, there's some options available for Carson to kind of spread the ball around a little bit.
Well, we mentioned that Jeannette suffered a loss against Greensburg Central Catholic, but the Jayhawks, one of 4 teams who have secured a playoff spot out of the Westmoreland County landscape. And I know that there's still 2 more weeks to go, and that's really going to come into a focus beginning this week. But Greater Latrobe, Bell Vernon area, Southmoreland, and Jeannette are all in. I would say out of that group, I don't think it's a surprise that Greater Latrobe is in the playoffs. Certainly everyone expected Bell Vernon area. You thought that Southmoreland would have a decent chance as well, knowing that of that 6-team conference that they were probably going to be in the top 4. And then Jeannette made the playoffs last year. But I do think that of these teams, Bell Vernon's right where they were a year ago. But the other 3 teams I do think are better than they were a year ago. Greater Latrobe, that won a playoff game, they are riding a hot streak, 4 straight victories. Southmoreland looks like it can maybe take the next step, and they've gotten some real nice additions as Craigett on offense, and then Shawley has been special on defense. And then the Jayhawks, we know they came up short, but just look at the outcome a year ago. They lost 44-0 against Greensburg Central Catholic. Now they had a second-half lead against the Centurion. So the teams that are in those 4, and there's certainly going to be many, many more to come, I feel like all of them are poised to potentially make some noise and win playoff games.
Yeah, and I think that's what the next step is for. I mean, Bell Vernon has taken that step, certainly, but Latrobe, Southmoreland, and Jeannette, the Wildcats, they win the playoff game last year. They want more this year. Jeannette able to get back to the playoffs this year, but, they were one and done last year going up against, I think it was the top seed, right? Bishop Canevin.
Yeah, they were in the playoffs, but they didn't really feel like a playoff team, to be honest.
And we've seen teams like that. And I always say, like, hey, you make the playoffs, that's fantastic. For some teams, that is their Super Bowl, if you will, just getting to the playoffs for some teams. But I think for teams like Latrobe, Southmoreland, and Jeannette, I think it would be disappointing if they got to the playoffs and were like one and done. Maybe you lose on a last second field goal or something, but I think that would be disappointing for those teams who, like you said, Sean, are definitely better positioned, I think, than they were last year.
And one of the interesting things about Greater Latrobe is they still have a chance potentially to be atop that conference when it's all said and done. Now they've got a big one coming up this week. I think it's fair to say that, Jeannette and Southmoreland are not going to be getting a real high seed. They can certainly improve their seeds over the next few weeks. I already know they're in. But for Greater Latrobe, I think that the potential is there. Now, are they going to be ahead of Aliquippa? Probably not. McKeesport and Thomas Jefferson still are going to be in that conversation. But I think that they could be in that next tier. And that's clearly above where they were last year, because they had to go on the road and score an upset of, ironically, the team we just talked about, Highlands, last year in the playoffs. So for Ron Prady, and I'm going to obviously talk to him about this, but I really do feel like they've got a special group, and a lot of them are juniors. This is, I think, what is becoming a pretty good program that's becoming maybe even better than pretty good.
Yeah, and Alex, I feel like every week we have to update Alex Tash. who did he get an offer from this week? I saw it. I don't know if you saw it, Sean.
That would be the University of Pittsburgh.
Oh, it was Pitt. Okay, yeah. So he got another Division I offer. Good for him, for sure.
Wisconsin, by the way, too.
Okay, that's the one I saw, actually. I don't think I thought I already known about Pitt, but Wisconsin, I think, was the most recent. But yeah, I mean, they reel off these 4 straight wins, and they really do it in convincing fashion, which I think they should. Then again, Trinity comes up. And
that victory looks better and better.
Thomas Jefferson, and then Latrobe smashes them 25-7. That's just crazy. But they did what they needed to do against Connellsville. They ran away. Johnny Wetzel had a massive game through the air and on the ground. So yeah, this Latrobe team has a chance to really make some noise in the playoffs, which is exciting.
And lastly, we mentioned Southmoreland's already in. It wasn't that long ago that making the playoffs was the biggest accomplishment in the world for that program. Now they want to get that first playoff win because they're still in pursuit of that. Remember 1979. And then the long drought that ended in 2019. But they've become a regular in the postseason. But Tim Bukowski knows getting into the playoffs is one thing. Getting it done in the playoffs is another. So congrats to those 4 teams. And I'm sure over the next 2 weeks, we're going to have at least another half dozen Westmoreland County teams that qualify for the postseason. We'll take a break. When we continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron, we will run down all the scores from week 7, also the top performers, and a little bit later on, plays of the week, as well as interviews with Ron Prady and Carson Heinle. That's as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Hi, Westmoreland sports fans. This is Al Gallardo, financial advisor with Lincoln Investment and longtime Westmoreland County resident. Whether it's a traditional or Roth IRA, 403B or 457 plan, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, or bonds, I can help you navigate the markets and assist you in achieving all of your goals. Call me at 724-309-8337 or email me at agallardo@lincolninvestment.com and we'll get started together. Good luck to all of the area's athletes and coaches this season.
At Mike Hamlin Hyundai, inventory is up and prices are down. Drive the new 2024 Hyundai Tucson and 2023 Hyundai Santa Fe for just 2.99% for 60 months or receive up to $3,000 in rebates. All vehicles are backed by the Mike Hamlin Advantage oil changes for life.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Sean and Dan talking high school football across Westmoreland County. Without any further ado, let's run down the rest of the scores from week 7 across the county. Some of these we already highlighted, many of which you can go back and watch or listen to on our archive broadcast, on demand, as some people call it. We'll begin with Franklin Regional knocking off Hempfield area and a Westmoreland County Class 5A Big East Conference matchup. The Panthers 38, the Spartans 15. No surprise that some of the familiar names once again for FR that take care of business. Hempfield area, the Spartans are putting up, a little bit of offense in these games, but unfortunately for them, defense has been hard to come by over the last couple of weeks. Amani Christian 45, Derry area 7. Trojans are scuffling at the bad time of year. Amani Christian, however, that team is absolutely loaded with talent. The Saints won that one going away. Derry now 3-5. You can go back and watch that game as well. Greensburg Central Catholic over Jeannette. We said it before, 42-24. Centurions prevail. They move to 5-3. Jeannette suffers its second loss of the season, the first in regulation. Their only prior loss came in overtime against East Allegheny. Much needed for Penn Trafford. 21-6. The Warriors knock off the Plum Mustangs to keep their postseason hopes alive. PT back to 500 on the campaign. You can listen to that broadcast. I will say that something very interesting came out of that game, Flick, and I don't know if it's going to continue this week or into week 9, but it was Grabowski who took just about every snap at quarterback in the first half, and he threw a little bit, not a lot. He mostly ran, and they also used Tassa Whipple. Second half, Johnny Luber comes out. He gets the majority of snaps at quarterback, although Grabowski still got his fair share as a Wildcat. Interesting. Not exactly sure what went into the decision. It wasn't something that John Rowan tipped me off about, but they found a way to grind out a victory. And so it wasn't necessarily pretty. It wasn't dominant, but they got the W much needed on the road against the Plum Mustangs. And now we wait and wonder what they'll do at quarterback going forward.
Yeah, like you said, sometimes you have to win ugly, and maybe Penn Trafford has done that a lot this year. Their defense played really, really well.
Plum's score came in the last minute of the game. It was that close to a shutout.
Obviously inconsequential there. I'm sure they wanted a shutout, but didn't quite get it. But Tassa Whipple did his thing, and it'll be interesting. I don't know what to say about the quarterbacks. It was really interesting because Ben Grabowski had an outstanding game against Norwin, and then was basically non-existent against Gateway. I think I remember he had one decent carry, and other than that, he didn't do a whole lot.
Finished with negative yards rushing in that game. Mm-hmm. I believe it was 4 attempts for negative 2 yards. And that was something I asked John Ruane about heading into that Plum game. And he said, one, kind of the game situation dictated it. He also thought that Gateway was really good defending Wildcat quarterbacks. So maybe that's a game situation, but to go from 200 plus yards to negative yards to then taking every snap at quarterback for an entire half, it's kind of been an up and down in terms of how they've deployed the quarterbacks. One thing is they certainly keep the opponents guessing. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see what John Ruane does over the next couple of weeks. They will be facing North Allegheny this week in a non-conference. Speaking of the Tigers, they got a massive lead and then cruised to a 53-25 victory over Norwin. That also non-conference. Once again, same story as always. The Knights, a much better second half than the first. They do have plenty of offense, but they could not slow down the Tigers whatsoever early in that one. Greater Latrobe 50, Connellsville 28, as the Wildcats punch their ticket in the Class 4A playoffs. Kiski area over Highlands, we talked about before, 36-21 in favor of the Cavaliers. Bell Vernon area makes quick work of Mount Pleasant, 55-7 in favor of the Leopards. They improved to 6-1. Clearly, they still the team to beat in all of 3A. Southmoreland gets a big win over Greensburg-Salem. That allows them to get into the postseason. The Scotties 46 and the Golden Lions 12. Little surprised at this score. Apollo Ridge blows out York 48-20. And so Apollo Ridge is a team that really has kind of struggled this year. York has played some good defense. All of a sudden, the Cougars have struggled on that side of the football. That could be a really costly loss for Benny Hoffer's squad. I thought that they were going to be in the postseason mix down until the wire, but you look at a loss like that, they are now tied in last place with Apollo Ridge and Ligonier Valley, just 1-4. So it looks like things starting to get away from the Cougars a little bit after that loss. Sarah Catholic 47, Ligonier Valley nothing. John Jablonowski was limited in that game as well for the Rams. And certainly they're not the first team that's given up a lot of points to Sarah Catholic. The Eagles' passing attack continues to impress. Similarly, Steel Valley 49, Burrell 14, as the Buccaneers drop back to 500 at 4-4. Steel Valley running away with the conference at 6-1, including 5-0 in conference play. Shadyside Academy returns to action and beats up on Valley 43-14. Jefferson Morgan all over Monessen 46-12. And on the college slate, Cal U 41, Seton Hill 14. A disastrous start for the Griffins. They were down 14-0 less than a minute into that game. And certainly there's not a lot of opportunity to bounce back from a 2-score deficit a minute in when you're playing on the road against a team like California University of Pennsylvania. Waynesburg 24 and St. Vincent 0 as the Yellow Jackets get their first win at the expense of the Bearcats. Let's look at the top performers from week 7 of the high school football season. The top passer, rusher, and receiver across the entire WPIAL, and then several notable performers from Westmoreland County specifically. The top passer this past week, a name that has gotten a lot of attention this year. It is Western Beaver freshman Javen Peel, 14 of 17, 423 yards. Peel, who attends Lincoln Park but plays as part of a co-op with Western Beaver, has established the all-time record, it is believed, for WPIAL freshmen in terms of passing yards.
Wow.
He's got a lot more in front of him. He's passing for 400 yards every week, it seems like. So he is a special one. It's actually a year that has been dominated by freshmen across the entire WPIAL in many regards. Not a freshman, but a sophomore, Tristan Tavares for Norwin, the top Westmoreland County passer, 261 yards on 16 of 32 attempts. Dom Dietrich of Hempfield area, he's taken over the job at quarterback. He puts up 222 through the air on 7 of 19. Carson Heinley, he's going to be our guest just in a little bit. The Kiski area QB went 14 of 26 for 219 yards. That same total was achieved by Chase Lemke of Franklin Regional, 219 on 10 of 14 passing. And John Wetzel of Greater Latrobe, 8 of 10, efficient as always, for 147 yards through the air. The top rusher across the entire WPIAL, this might blow your mind, Flick, he is a freshman. It's Armin Hill of West Mifflin.
No way.
313 yards on the ground. These ninth graders are built different this year, it seems like. That is well ahead of anyone from Westmoreland County. It was Tassa Whipple of Penn Trafford who put up a county-high 154 yards on the ground. Noah Sanders, 142 for Jeannette. Ben Grabowski, Whipple's teammate, 123 yards for PT. Dejon Craigett of Southmoreland, 112 yards. And Tyree Turner, 110 for Greensburg Central Catholic.
When we were putting up these graphics, I initially had Almond Hill, like an almond.
Yeah.
That's incorrect.
No, it's Armon Hill.
Armon, not almond.
You've got 3 more years to get that name correct, because that's a name that we're going to be hearing.
I'm going to, I promise.
For a long, long time, both he and Peel, just terrific freshmen.
Maybe I was hungry. I don't know.
Yeah, well, wouldn't be the first time.
That's very true, Sean.
That I say that lovingly. The top receiver is not just in the WPIAL, but from Westmoreland County. That's Luke Denny, as he has a district-high 234 yards. I want to shortchange him. 10 receptions for 234 for Luke Denny, a name that we've seen quite a bit this year. For the Knights, Bart Martin of Kiski area, 5 catches for 152. Reddick Catcher in the loss for Hempfield area has 2 grabs for 113 yards. Mr. Electricity, Ayden Hudock on the other side of that game, Franklin Regional standout, 6 grabs for 110 yards. And Ty Keffer of Southmoreland, 6 receptions for 108 yards for the Scotties. That'll do it for the Week 7 top performers. We will take a break, but when we come back, it is the always popular Plays of the Week segment. And a little bit later on, Greater Latrobe's Ron Prady and Carson Hinley of Kiski area as a look ahead of the Week 8 schedule as well on the docket. That's all as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
The Collision Shop by Jason Mignone is your one-stop shop for all things auto body repair. Our experienced technicians and state-of-the-art facilities have you covered on both passenger and heavy-duty vehicle repairs, including scratches, scrapes, and dents, free estimates, body repairs, welding, refinishing, glass replacement, and more. Our all-new alignment and calibration shop has the tooling, equipment, and staffing to ensure top-quality alignment and calibration adjustments for your vehicle. Our friendly office staff is more than happy to assist you through every step of your vehicle's repair process. Visit the Collision Shop by Jason for our complete list of services.
I feel like it's definitely very important, like for high school, because a lot of kids, get peer pressured into drinking and doing drugs. So like doing the events like in a school setting, I feel like definitely like try to prevent kids from like going to like parties and drinking and driving and doing drugs and being peer pressured.
We just want to talk about the dangers of the substance abuse in our community, and we want to help be a part of stopping that.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron as we roll along each and every Wednesday. It's your home for the best high school football talk across Westmoreland County. Sean and Dan. And, well, Dan, are you ready for everybody's favorite segment?
Yes.
I guess that means yes. Let's do it. It is time for Plays of the Week. And we'll begin with Jeannette as the Jayhawks held a halftime lead at home against rival Greensburg Central Catholic last week. Things were looking promising early in the third quarter when Peyton Moulter and Jeremiah Williamson made some magic on 4th down to extend their lead, with Brent Wiggum and Anthony D'Annunzio detailing the action.
So again, Jeannette will line up offensively, but you never know because Peyton Moulter's the punter, and he can drop back at any moment and punt one away. Does look like he's going to try for this one, though. Rolls out, downfield, looking for a man wide open, and it is going to be caught by Jeremiah Williamson at the 3. Touchdown, Agent Jeremiah Williamson so effective on the defensive side of the football, and now he comes to life on the offensive side of the football. What a pass and catch. Peyton Moulter so cool and calm in that backfield on 4th down. Finds Jeremiah Williamson wide open. Look at him here, Brent. From the 42-yard line, heaves it downfield, catches the football right at the 4-yard line. Looks like he almost stepped out of bounds, but he doesn't.
Yeah, at the time, Sean, you're thinking, what a massive play in the game. It's 4th down and 7. Jeannette goes for it and hits the big, deep pass play. It looked like Jeremiah maybe stepped out of bounds. That was really close. Didn't have a camera over there, obviously. But still a lot of time to go, and GCC obviously showed that. But that was a massive play at that time. And Jeremiah Williamson, only a freshman, continuing with these splash plays.
Yeah, I like the bold decision, and in that instance, it paid off for Coach Paulone and crew as Jeannette was able to extend the lead. Unfortunately, as we'll get to momentarily, they could not hang on. And so we will now look at plays of the week from the other side, the Greensburg Central Catholic perspective. It was the Centurions who dominated most of that second half, led by Tyree Turner and Samir Crosby. With GCC up midway through the 4th, Crosby had a special run that showed he and the Centurions were nearly impossible to stop in that half, with Brennan Anthony on the call.
1st and 10 for Central from their 44-yard line. Turner going to give it to Crosby. If he gets outside, look out, and he does just that. 10, 20. Look at Samir Crosby go inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. Samir Crosby all the way down to the 2-yard line. What a run by Samir Crosby, carrying Jayhawks along the way. Kamoni Brown was the first to catch a ride on the Samir Crosby train to the end zone there. Just short, but here he gets away from Jace Powell. There he gets away from Eli Jones. He gets away from Peyton Moulter. Gavin Holmeyer. Finally, Kamoni Brown right there jumps on. He takes him for a ride.
Yeah, this play comes midway through the 4th quarter. I mentioned earlier that the final score not indicative of how close the game actually was. This was a 28-24 game with 6:30 and change on the clock before Samir Crosby busts this long run, and then Tyree Turner takes it on the very next play on a short touchdown run, and GCC takes an even bigger lead and then scores again to set the final score. But, man, Samir Crosby just showing. You could hear it in Brent's voice, just the way that he had accumulated all of these yards throughout the game, and then that might have been the backbreaker for GCC, or the backbreaker for Jeannette in the game.
He's not big. I think if he was a little bit bigger, you would see even more college offers at this point. But he is strong for his size, as he was dragging guys with him for the last 10 or so yards of that terrific play. And by the way, I should know, just about every week, plays of the week, I have either a touchdown or an interception. Rarely do I have a play that doesn't yield points, but I figured that was worth it for what we saw from Crosby, and he again was paramount in that victory. So I figured that was a good one to include, and the Centurions ultimately get the W. We continue plays of the week with Franklin Regional as the Panthers took control in the second quarter of their game at Hempfield area. But perhaps the biggest play came from an unlikely source as McAllister Bresnahan found pay dirt on an impressive reception, with Jonathan Whaley captioning that sequence.
But on these last two, it's like Kyle's not getting the ball clean and crisp, but it hasn't mattered. Now Lemke drops back, steps up, fires it. He's got a man open, and that's going to go down, and it's going to be a touchdown. And that time, it was a pass down that far seam. Making the catch was McAllister Bresnahan. Wow, and that's for that young man, number 10, McAllister Bresnahan, his first touchdown of the season for sure.
Even our very own Jonathan Whaley was surprised about this one, because you usually see the Lemke to Hudock hook up, but how about Bresnahan getting himself open right down the seam, and Chase put it on him, and again, Chase just continues to get better. Lance Getzy talked about it after the game, just about his continuing maturation and how he and Hudock just have that special connection, much like Sarnick and Hudock did last year. And then Bresnahan gets in on the action. Has to feel good for him. And Franklin Regional, man, they continue to roll.
And I believe that was Lipman who put a pretty good hit on him and basically just bounced off now. So, Bresnahan should be flexing after that touchdown. Well-deserved as he gets in plays of the week. We'll wrap up this edition of Plays of the Week with Penn Trafford. It was the running game once again that propelled the Warriors, and it was Ben Grabowski who was the finisher. Already scoring twice earlier in the game, Grabowski put the exclamation point on his performance at Plum, giving PT an insurmountable fourth-quarter lead, with myself and Jack Ridenauer painting the picture.
From the 9-yard line, 2nd and 8. Grabowski awaiting the snap. He'll cut this one up the middle, and he spins his way into the end zone, his 3rd touchdown of the night. Grabowski, a house call from 9 yards out.
The more and more that the Warriors continue to go with the run game, eventually a hole bursts open and they find pay dirt, and just an incredible drive manufactured by Penn Trafford gives Plum 3 minutes to try and make up a 3-score difference. I'm not an expert in math, Sean, but I don't think that the probability is very good.
Well, I mentioned, Dan, it was Grabowski who got all of the reps at quarterback in the first half, but whether he is a traditional quarterback, if you will, dropping back to pass, a wildcat quarterback, you can even use him as a running back. One thing that's always true is he's going to run hard, and he finds a way to kind of wear down a defense over the course of a game. So him getting the hat trick of touchdowns, scored all of the touchdowns for PT in that low-scoring victory against the Plum Mustangs.
I just can't get over, Sean, a freshman doing what he's doing in Class 5A. It really is incredible. And I know you mentioned it a couple of times that John Ruane didn't hesitate, when you asked him, is this the best performance you've ever seen from a freshman? And, he said yes.
Yeah, again, we talk Western Beaver, West Mifflin, Penn Trafford, different levels of high school football in the WPIAL, but the recurring theme in 2023, it is a special group of freshmen. One of those freshmen as well is on the McKeesport Tigers side, and we're going to talk a little bit about McKeesport because that's the next opponent for Ron Prady, the head coach of the Greater Latrobe Wildcats. He will be our guest next after his team clinched a playoff spot, winners of 4 in a row. We will hear from the second-year head coach for Greater Latrobe, Ron Prady, right after this on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Play It Again Sports in Greensburg is your locally owned and operated sporting goods store. We set ourselves apart by offering a wide variety of both new and used equipment at competitive prices, located in the Greengate East Plaza below Walmart. Play It Again Sports' knowledgeable staff will help you and your family prepare for every athletic season. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or trade, we are here as your one-stop shop. At Play It Again Sports in Greensburg, everybody plays.
East Suburban Sports Medicine Center, Western Pennsylvania's #1 physical therapy practice since 1984, is always offering same-day or next-day appointments for all new patients. With 8 convenient locations and extensive therapy services, ESSMC offers the best care anywhere, hands down. Call 412-856-8060 or visit ESSMC.com to schedule today. ESSMC Physical Therapy. Your health, your decision.
I'm Sean Meyers, joined by Ron Prady, the second-year head coach for Greater Latrobe here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. And first off, Ron, congratulations on securing a playoff spot for the second time in as many years guiding this program. I know that's a big accomplishment. It certainly was last year. You went on to win a playoff game. What have you seen in terms of steps forward this year in 2023, taking that next step from where you left off a year ago?
I think we've seen a lot of maturity out of our kids. We had a lot of kids played last year that were sophomores and, a bunch of juniors and even some freshmen. So I think they're, understanding of the offense and the defense and how we do things, how we prepare, we're full this year. There's interest in the program. The numbers are up. So all of those things I think have gone into any success that we've had.
Well, let's talk about last week against Connellsville in particular. You win 50-28 against the Falcons. I know that your defense has really clamped down on opponents previously. This time it felt like the offense came through in a big, big way. What were your biggest takeaways from that game?
I think it was the offense. I think we scored, every possession that we had in the game. So, we were able to run some 2-minute stuff right before the half, which was beneficial to us. And, we got a field goal with about 3 seconds left. So, the offense and Johnny Wetzel in particular, and the way he manages the game, but kind of took over the game a little bit, had 4 touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns, both to Jeannette, who's, has been explosive for us all year. Brady Prohovic ran the ball well, and I think our offensive line did a great job, and so we were pretty happy, offensively. Certainly areas this week, like you said, our defense had been kind of carrying us for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and a little chink in the armor, I guess, this week, but we'll get back at it and try to get better.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about John Wetzel. He played a lot last year as a sophomore, and he was a little bit more of a game manager at times. Now, there were games where he excelled. It seems like he has really taken some massive strides this year because he's putting up monster numbers as a passer and a rusher. What are the biggest areas in his development?
I think his maturity, his comfort level at the position, understanding the offense, understanding what we want to do. And the biggest thing is he's limited turnovers. I think he's thrown, 2 interceptions on the year. So that's huge for us. And John is able to run the ball. He's able to obviously, throw the ball well too. So he's, a true dual threat and a guy that we rely on and will continue to rely on.
Well, a guy that John Wetzel relies upon is Jeannette Williams because he's been an explosive player, a receiver, but a guy who also has gotten it done on defense and in particular special teams. How has he been such an impact player, and how does he have such a knack for getting those big plays, it seems like, each and every week?
Well, that's the thing. I think, those guys have played basketball together a lot of years too. So that kind of that Wetzel to Williams pass, I've seen that on the basketball court quite a few times too. But Jeannette has a knack for getting open. He, he's a great route runner, and his hands, he's always had the ability to go get the ball and make plays. And then I think his elusiveness and his explosion after the catch is big too. But the biggest thing, I think there is that comfort level between those two. And, another year in the system, and they've certainly grown.
Well, another player who has certainly grown, I think probably the headliner for Greater Latrobe, certainly if you follow high school football recruiting, is Alex Tash. And he's really blown up in terms of the collegiate interest over the past handful of weeks. Seems like every day almost there's a new offer coming in. How has he put himself on the map as one of the best players in the state among the junior class?
Well, I think, number one is his size and his length. He's got long arms. He's 6'3", about 212 pounds or so. Just very violent when he gets there. The explosion and his love for the game. Alex works his tail off along with, a lot of our other guys, but he puts extra work in, all off season to better himself. And you say it seems like just about every day. Well, this morning he picked up pit offer too. So, they do keep coming in, and it's well-deserved. He, like I said, he works his tail off, and we're really proud of Alex and, what he's accomplished this far.
Well, I know during your time at Penn Trafford, there were some highly recruited guys. I think back to Cade Yakimelli, your final year there. He was committed to Wisconsin and is still with the Badgers. Is it in any way a distraction for not just the player getting the offers, but some of the teammates as well? And as a coach, how do you try to navigate that?
Yeah, I think it hasn't been a distraction for us. And with Cade, it wasn't either. We've had other guys at Penn Trafford too pick up offers throughout the season. And, and they're both very humble. Alex and Cade was too. So that helps. Their humility doesn't let it become a problem for our team. And our guys are all happy for him. There's no jealousy or no animosity at all. I think our entire community, our entire school, our entire staff is very proud of Alex and happy for him.
I mentioned that you're riding a 4-game winning streak. That came after you dropped your conference opener against Thomas Jefferson, which I think most people would say that's one of the best teams in 4A. And we're going to talk about another outstanding 4A opponent upcoming in just a little bit. But over the past month, 4 consecutive wins, and pretty impressive in doing so. What have been some of the biggest keys?
Well, up until this week, like I said, we played pretty good defense for 3 of those 4 And, our offense has come along and I thought gotten better each week. And it's not just Jaton and John. Brady Prohovic has run the ball really well. Alex carries the ball some too, and Chris Cochran and Jack Drenovich, those guys, Ben Stratton, they've all for us with the ball in our hands. And I think the growth of our offensive line in the last month is for us. We have some young guys playing up front, and with the more experience they've gotten and the reps that they see on Friday nights, I think they've grown a ton. So, that's been great for us.
So against Connellsville, as we mentioned, you had an offensive outburst. Was that something that you saw in particular where you could exploit their defense, or is it just a matter of guys making plays that sort of have been there to be made all season long?
Well, one, we limited penalties, which has been a continuous problem for us, and not getting behind the sticks and facing 1st and 20, which is tough for anybody, really helped this week. We didn't have any holds. One or two false starts that we were kind of able to overcome, but eliminating those penalties and those mistakes, I thought was a big plus for us, and something that we're going to have to continue to do. Along with our offensive line growing. So, we expected to be able to put up some points, but I don't know if we thought 50. But the execution of our guys on offense was really good this week, and hopefully that continues.
So with the victory, you get the playoff clincher. Was that something that you realized immediately afterwards? Was there a bit of a celebration for the team, or how was the news broken and how did everyone react to it?
I don't know that we knew until a day later or two. Like I think I told you before, we just kind of try to focus on what's in front of us. And, I figured if at that point with one loss, there was a pretty good chance that we were in, but not until Saturday or Sunday did I know for sure. So no, there was no real celebration. Our guys are humble and they're focused on the task at hand and, trying to prepare for McKeesport.
So you're in the playoffs, but I know that you don't just want to settle for being in the playoffs because you can really impact your seeding this upcoming week when you go against the Tigers. Is it pretty easy at this point to make sure the team continues to be motivated and wants to take it a step further?
Well, I think so. I don't know that we have to motivate them this week, although we understand the huge challenge that McKeesport presents. They're just so consistent year in, year out, and kind of program that we'd like to become. And what they do offensively and their speed on defense, all that goes in. I think our kids will be focused on that rather than anything else.
Going against McKeesport always presents a unique challenge, in particular, not just because they're a great team, but because they're a lot of throwback style approach on offense, I would say. They run the flex bone. They have multiple guys who are ball carriers in any potential play. How much of a challenge is that for you defensively to prepare for something that you probably don't see the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's the only time we're going to see it all year. And it makes it tough because now they're doing so much more other than just, their traditional offense. They moved the big kid to fullback and they kind of got in a double tight in the eye a little bit, and he ran the ball. And I think he's 250. 255, something like that. So they're doing a lot of other things too besides what they traditionally do, which was hard enough to prepare for. You have to be disciplined. You have to, play assignment football, all the things that people say about McKeesport. But the toughest thing to do is to match them up front. They're big and they're powerful when they get off the ball and they play low up front. So that's the biggest challenge, I think, for us.
I know that when I saw McKeesport a year ago, I thought they were one of the most impressive teams I saw all season long. They did graduate some really good players from last year's team, but it seems like somehow, some way they've replaced them almost seamlessly. And a freshman named Kamon Spell has been a big part of that. I know he's got some hype as one of the best freshmen in the entire state at this point. I know it's kind of ridiculous to talk about ninth graders in those terms, but it seems like he might be one of the best for a long time to come. What does he do well, and how do you have to kind of limit and combat what he can provide?
Yeah, all the accolades he's getting is certainly well-deserved. He's explosive. He's big for a freshman. He's quick. He's just a downhill runner that can make you miss a little bit. And his brother is the one they moved to fullback. Was playing tight end. He's the one that ran for 200 last week. Like I said, he's enormous. And then you throw his younger brother, the freshman, back there. They have so many weapons. Not just those guys, but some receivers. They just have guys that are capable of killing you. And it's just so tough to defend. But we're going to give it our best.
Do you think back to your time at Penn Trafford, going against McKeesport and having some of those good matchups, and reflect on what worked well and what didn't against the Tigers, and then try to apply that now in your second year, seeing them at Greater Latrobe?
Well, yeah. Again, any success we had at Penn Trafford was because we were able to match them up front, the physicality. And that's something we worked hard in the off season, was to try to get bigger and more physical. So we're going to see if that pays any dividends. But we try to replicate some of the things we did there, but we're not Penn Trafford, and our staff's different, and our players are different. So there are certainly little things that we might try to do, but I think we have some of our own wrinkles too.
Now, I talk to you every week doing a preview for the Latrobe Bulletin, and you're pretty consistent in what you say, but I still have to ask, what are the biggest keys for success against the Tigers?
Well, I think, I might throw you off here, but I think we need to not turn the ball over, eliminate penalties, and a fast start would help. With these guys, if you get behind, a couple scores early, it's tough to keep up with them. And then that offense gets rolling, they get momentum on defense, and then you're kind of in trouble. So, we need a fast start. We need maybe a stop here or a score here to kind of stay in the game. And it's going to be a challenge, and we recognize that, but we're looking forward to it.
Well, Ron, I appreciate the time as always, and we're looking forward to seeing the Wildcats in the playoffs once again. But I know you got a big one in front of you, so good luck against McKeesport on Friday as well.
Thank you, Sean.
That is Ron Prady, the head coach for Greater Latrobe. We'll take a break and continue with Westmoreland on the Gridiron right here on WSN.
Nothing performs like a Volkswagen, and nobody does Volkswagen like Sendell VW in Greensburg. Taos, Tiguan, Atlas, Jetta, and more. Sendell VW has tons of new inventory on the lot, with more arriving daily. Visit our showroom today or check out our easy-to-use Stop, Shop, and Roll online buying feature. Get your best deal on a great selection of new Volkswagen models at Sendell VW, Route 30 in Greensburg. SendellVW.com. We would love to meet you.
D'Annunzio's Italian Restaurants is open 7 days a week at all 3 of our locations, Jeannette, Monroeville, and Latrobe. We invite you to join us for our specials. Monday, the special is spaghetti. Tuesday, it's raviolis. Wednesday, it's lasagna. And Thursday, it's chicken parmesan or chicken romano. Be sure to try our drink specials and our fabulous desserts. And remember, we also have takeout available at all 3 locations.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We appreciate Ron Prady taking the time, the second-year head coach, the man known as Boomer. That's even in one of his emails that he uses.
Boomer.
Yes. And so everyone at Greater Latrobe loves him, obviously, for the job he's done there. But I think that everyone at Penn Trafford loves to see the success, and especially because those teams are in different classifications now. They weren't about a half decade ago, but Greater Latrobe in 4A, there's probably a lot of Penn Trafford fans cheering from a distance for Coach Prady and Greater Latrobe as well. Always enjoy talking to him. I kind of
remember the Penn Trafford Latrobe. I don't know if it was the boys game or the girls soccer game, one of those two. Boomer was there, and they gave him like a massive shout out over the PA system. We don't even get that shout out.
Yeah, deservedly so. Almost as big as the shout out that we get when we go anywhere.
Not as big, though. Not as big.
I talk to him every week for the Latrobe Bulletin article that I do. So got the chance to talk to him and kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone this week. But he's not a guy who, I guess, goes over the top with praise. He's always very kind of measured. So the fact that he's been so, I guess, glowing in when he talks about guys like Wetzel and Tash tells you how good they are. And if you didn't know already based on their numbers and their collegiate interest, he's got some pretty special players there at Greater Latrobe that are hopefully going to take a big step forward this year. And certainly I think 2024, that's going to be an absolutely superstar senior class that the Wildcats.
Well, and I have to take a second. This has nothing to do with football, but Ron's daughter, Allie, who played softball at Penn Trafford and now plays at St. Vincent, took care of my son Landon over at Penn Pals in Penn Trafford all summer long. And, always wants to see pictures of him now that she's back to school. Although she worked a couple of days this week over fall break. So I want to give her a shout out because she was great with them. So shout out to all the Pradys.
Would you trust Ron to watch Landon?
Probably not. Yeah, he held him at the coaches show a little bit.
Yeah.
But who knows? He wants to turn him into a nose guard already.
I was going to say he'll get him started, playing some football schemes already.
Smacking him around a little bit, yeah.
Well, again, we appreciate Ron Prady. That's the first of our 2 interviews. The next one will be with Carson Heinley of Kiski area, as the Cavaliers quarterback has enjoyed a great season, certainly a great week this past week, and that's the reason why he's our interview, because the fans recognized his great performance on Friday night.
The Kiski fans have spoken. I'll tell you what, the Kiski fans, man, they stuffed the ballot box for their guys. Carson won it last year, wins it again this year. Sean read his stats earlier on the show. 3 touchdowns through the air, completed 15 to 25 passes for 213 yards. By the way, we had almost 2,500 votes this week, but we had some other great performances as well. How about Luke Denny continuing to put up massive numbers, 10 catches, 234 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the loss to North Allegheny for Norwin. Johnny Wetzel, wow, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He was tremendous. 4 touchdowns through the air.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't shortchange him.
Wait, let me do that one more time, Sean. 2 touchdowns through the air, 4 touchdowns on the ground. I went to dairy. 6 total touchdowns for Johnny in that massive win over Connellsville. And then Tyree Turner, we've been talking about him throughout the show. 4 total touchdowns for him as well for Greensburg Central Catholic. Got through it. Vote for your favorite athlete of the week, whoever you think should win player of the week. And don't forget to share as well on your social media pages for more votes each and every week. Actually, time is winding down. Only a couple of, 2 more player of the week during the regular season here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.
I wonder, is Aaron Albert a big catalyst for all the Kiski area love?
I think maybe he has some type of encryption. And he gets in that you can only vote once a day. Maybe no, I'm just kidding. I don't think he does that, but yeah, I think he shares it. That's for sure. He drums up that extra support.
Our good pal, Aaron Albert, the assistant coach at Kiski area, the former baseball coach for the Cavaliers as well. Well, we will hear from the man of the hour, Carson Heinley of Kiski area, after a quick break. And then later on in the show, we will run down the Week 8 preview as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
A hybrid operating room, the most advanced surgical environment in medicine. It's a new horizon for minimally invasive endovascular and cardiac surgeries. The hybrid OR provides unparalleled imaging in the operating room. For patients, that means a shorter procedure, less recovery time, and reduced risk for complications. Independence Health System. Expert care here.
That's the power of Bowser. Yeah.
Coach, building a championship team, I know for you, it's all about the details. The same goes with the Bowsers.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's the tiny little details every single day, not forgetting about it the next day and maybe doing it the following day. I mean, I think details are everything.
As Coach says, get your eyes right on the power of Bowser.
The Bowser family is proud to have Coach Narduzzi as part of our team.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. It is time to welcome our two-time Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. He won it last year. He wins it again this year for his performance against Highlands in Week 7. He is Carson Heinley, junior quarterback of the Kiski area Cavaliers. He went for 213 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns in that 36-21 victory over Highlands. Carson, thank you so much for rejoining me once again this year.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
Well, let's jump right into it, my man. 36 points, your most points you guys scored this season so far.
Yep.
What led to your success on offense against Highlands?
I mean, well, we really came out and like they were giving us what we wanted to see. And our O-line did a spectacular job as always with blocking. So, and Landon Cusick and Brendan Moore take the pressure off me a lot by running the ball and like kind of like balancing our offense really well. And that's what opens up a lot of the passing schemes and passing plays. So that helps.
Well, I want to ask you about the connection you had with, I know you call him Bart, Terry Martin.
Yeah.
We'll call him Bart, because your connection with Isaiah Gonzalez, obviously, I mean, you guys have something special going on, but it was Bart that you hooked up with 5 times for 140 or 152 yards and a touchdown. So was that kind of part of the game plan? Did you try to get him more involved, or was it just the defense giving it to you?
Well, actually, the play call was supposed to be Isaiah, but they bracketed Isaiah a lot, and they had like 2 guys over him, and then that's what opened up Bart for that like skinny post to get in between to the safety. And I saw a back, like that wasn't even supposed to be the play. Like I saw a backside, and I told him to go on a post, and he made a great play, and the O-line gave me time, so it was great.
Must be nice though, him stepping up to give you another option, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because I mean, if they bracket Isaiah, I have to have someone else to go to, you know?
Yep. Absolutely. Now, you guys were up. Highlands kind of makes a comeback. It's 29-21. But, you know, you mentioned the running of your running back, Landon Cusick, came up with a big touchdown run. What did you kind of see on that play from where you were standing, the 24-yard run that gave you guys really the nail in the coffin there?
Yeah, so actually we went Wildcat there. So I was split out.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so you were split out.
Yeah, so I saw it happen. So our O-line did a great job and got great push. And then Landon just saw the hole and just hit it, and he did a great job. And then he made the safety miss, and he was scored. So, and that pretty much sealed the deal, you know.
I won't ask you if you're working on a play where he throws you the ball. I'm sure there's something in there in the playbook for that, but
maybe. Fox Chapel might see it. So
maybe. So, you know, you get the win. I know earlier this year you got your first conference win in a while. You know, you've been in a lot of games that you've played in, even the losses. So when you look at practice this week, knowing the playoffs are still on the table, might need a little bit of help, but playoffs are still on the table for you, and you're coming off a win. I mean, did you guys kind of feel that extra energy in practice this week?
Oh, yeah. Morale definitely overall went up after that, especially it was an emotional win, you know, as you know, with Coach A coaching there. So we are coming to work this week, and I mean, it's looking good. I'm really excited for Fox Chapel.
Well, you mentioned Coach A, Sam Albert. I wanted to ask you about that. He coached at Highlands for 20 years. Were you guys aware of that going in? Did that add a little extra juice to the game?
Yes. I mean, we knew since the beginning of the season that we were looking forward to Highlands. I mean, Coach A's two sons are on the coaching staff. They know, they tell us stories about him being in Highlands and all that. So we had to just step up and get the win for Coach A, you know?
Well, and he said after the game, Carson, that you're one of the toughest kids he's ever coached. What does that mean to you, hearing him say something like that?
I mean, he's been coaching for a long time, even since I was born. So, I mean, for him to say that, it means a lot to me because the amount of talent he's coached and the amount of players he's coached. So,
talking with our player of the week, Carson Heinley of the Kiski area Cavaliers. I know we talked last year, Carson, about the way that you started the year as the JV quarterback, and then you just put up some sick numbers. You really adjusted very quickly. So what are some of the things that I guess you've learned now to become a better quarterback than maybe you were when you first took over? What are some of those things?
Even like the little things when it comes down to just your body language and how how our lineman reacts to the quarterback's body language. Like I think I really grew on that and how to lead the team, not just throwing the ball wise and making plays. Like I really did learn how to lead the team, and that's what's helping us with our success.
Intangibles, man. Some people overlook them, but they are really, really important.
They do help.
Now, you attended the Manning camp over the summer. Tell us about what that experience was like and who was there.
Yeah, I mean, it was great hearing from NFL quarterbacks and college quarterbacks, but like each college quarterback had a certain specific skill that they were good at and that they were at the camp for teaching. and we would all be in a station, and it was kind of like just drills. We would just keep going to a different drill, and at each drill, there would be a different college quarterback, and they were helping you with either the reads, your throwing technique, like footwork, and it really did help me a lot. And they sent me home with drills to do it on my own just to get better, like on like my home turf, like to do. So
very cool. Was there somebody that kind of made an impression on you more than somebody, some of the others?
Joe Milton from Texas, like, he threw a ball like 75 yards. I've never seen a ball get thrown.
Probably effortlessly too.
Three-step gone,
That's pretty cool. Now, did you have to get invited to that? I'm not sure how that works.
You can register early, but there's not a lot of spots, or you could get invited. But I registered early and I got a spot and I was able to go, and I'm really grateful for that. So,
and where was it?
Louisiana.
Wow. I mean, that's a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning to go back next year, or?
I don't know. I'm still debating on it because, what is it? It's just going to be like the same thing. Don't get me wrong. It was a great time, great experience.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it again, but I don't know. I still got to think about it. So.
That's a big, that's a commitment to get there, and I'm sure it's not cheap either. So, but that was cool.
Yeah.
You got a chance to do it, and you learned a lot. I'm sure. What do you enjoy most about playing football for Kiski area?
I love the whole Friday, at school, the morning. I like waking up and it's game day and everyone's really excited, the student section. I like when the other schools talk crap, I love all that stuff. So
how about college plans? I'm sure they're still coming together for you, but in terms of, do you want to continue playing football? Is that something you'd like to do? I know you're a hooper too, so you can say either one.
Yeah, I would, if I was going to play a college sport, I would say I would want to do football. So, I'm just going to keep working and see where I can go,
Absolutely. Now, you guys have, you mentioned Fox Chapel earlier. I know it's a non-conference game, and potentially you have a massive one against Armstrong, but I know your focus is on Fox Chapel. So what do you guys, after kind of watching some film on them, what do you have to do well to come away with a win?
We got to stop their run. Their pass is they're decent, but we just got to, if we're able to stop their run, we'll be good. And I think I like our matchups on offense and everything, so I think we'll be good.
Carson, this was fantastic. Folks, he's only a junior. We've already talked to him twice, so we hope you win Player of the Week again next year, and we can talk to you again. Of course, and basketball season, we'll see you with the Cavaliers too, but you still have hopefully a few more weeks of football season left, and we certainly hope you get that playoff spot. I know you guys want it badly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
Carson, thank you so much, man, and again, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Absolutely. That is Carson Heinley of the Kiski area Cavaliers. We'll preview their game against Fox Chapel and all the games in Westmoreland County coming up on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
State Representative Mike Reese was a great advocate for the kids in our community. He felt athletics were a vital tool in raising healthy, happy kids. The Mike Reese Memorial Fund offers grants to local youth athletic organizations so that every kid has a chance to play. Funding is available for new equipment, registration fee offset, facility improvements, and more. Visit MikeReeseMemorialFund.com to apply.
And we roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We appreciate Carson Heinley of Kiski area taking the time to join us, our Player of the Week. And now it's really starting to get to crunch time of the high school football regular season. We talked about the 4 teams that have already secured playoff berths. I would suspect that there will be more to come this week. Let's look at the Week 8 preview. And we got some good ones here on our network in particular. Let's begin with Class 5A conference play. As Plum on the road against Hempfield area. The Spartans have struggled. The Mustangs have been competitive, but they've struggled as well. One of these teams certainly wants to kind of build some momentum heading towards the offseason as the Spartans welcome the Mustangs. And am I correct in saying that you're going to be doing that game?
I am. I came out of retirement a couple of weeks ago to do Seton Hill football. Not only am I coming out of retirement, Sean, I don't even know if you know this, a guy by the name of Chris Smith will be doing football color on Friday. Now, we had to move all kind of pieces around. My brother's missing his first dairy game, second dairy game, he said, in like 13 years or whatever, 10 years. So you'll be going there. I don't know if the dairy people, I don't know how they're going to react to you, Sean.
Yeah,
you better be able to, I don't know, you got to be able to
use that
adjust.
dairy math you talked about earlier in the broadcast.
What's that?
Said I'll have to use that dairy math that you talked about earlier.
Right, exactly. Just make sure you say all the yards wrong and all that going on. But and also, I'm just stealing your thunder here. TJ DeStefano's doing play-by-play this week. This is crazy. This is crazy, Sean.
That's an unbelievable treat. And by the way, do you have a dump button when you're working with Chris Smith?
No, absolutely not. So hopefully no one gets too mad or offended.
He'll have to be on his best behavior. So that game we will have. And then as Flick mentioned, I'll be doing dairy area. They will be in a big matchup in Class 2A Allegheny Conference play at Burrell against the Buccaneers and Sean Liotta. Expect to see a lot of running game in that contest between the Trojans and the Buccaneers. Jeannette at Springdale. That is a conference matchup in Class 1A Eastern Conference play. We mentioned the Jayhawks already in the postseason, a game that certainly they will be heavily favored to win against the Dynamos as they will continue to try to boost their
favored
playoff.
to win, Sean, for sure, and they should win. But they need to get healthy right now. They do. Yeah. They're battling some injuries. Lonnie Green has a knee injury. He might be out for the season. We mentioned Austin Emery. Late in the game, Peyton Moulter was taken out. I think he's okay, but at that point, the game was kind of over. But we saw Kamani Brown actually taking snaps at quarterback, and I think they have some other bumps and bruises too on an already thin roster.
Yeah, and so I will say, no knock on the Dynamos, but if you're Jeannette, you want to get command of that game early so that the second half. Now, not that they have a deep bench, they don't. But the guys who are banged up, or maybe some of your best players like a Sanders or a Moulter, can maybe have a lessened workload because you need those guys healthy into the final week of the regular season and certainly into the playoffs, which we know they have already secured. That's one of the benefits when you clinch early. You can kind of figure out the best way to approach it over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure Coach Paulone thinking of how he wants to do things on Friday. Couple of non-conference involving 5A teams in the Big East. The first, Franklin Regional welcoming North Hills, and then Penn Trafford hosting North Allegheny. My goodness, for these two teams, it's eerily similar. They are currently tied for second place in the Big East. We know that Gateway is in. We know that only one of these teams will be guaranteed to get into the playoffs. So they meet in Week 9, that being Penn Trafford and Franklin Regional. They both have this kind of thorn in their side non-conference game in Week 8. Not a huge fan of how the schedule's laid out. It is what it is. I think the best part of it is they will both be kind of on even playing fields, knowing that this week doesn't really matter and they can sort of look ahead to the following week.
Yeah, and last year, both teams pretty much played it straight up. If I remember correctly, North Allegheny, maybe rested a guy or two. I think he may have only played one half or something like that, if I remember right. And I think if you asked either coach, and I think John, who, kind of surprisingly, goes on the record and kind of says that, and I agree with him that, we'd rather not be playing North Allegheny in Week 8 of the season, or whomever, whatever non-conference game you're talking about. Franklin Regional also playing a non-conference game in Week 8, but it is what it is. And, we'll see after realignment and things shake up what happens, next year and the year after that.
And we should note, no knock on North Hills, but for Penn Trafford going against North Allegheny, that is a absolute powerhouse team. Yeah, maybe they're not quite as good as Central Catholic this year, but the Tigers will beat up a bunch of teams. And so for PT, biggest thing is you want to play well, you want to build some momentum, but you have to get out of there as healthy as possible heading into a big one that will determine for sure a playoff spot in Week 9 between Panthers and Warriors. Also, we will have the Norway Knights on Friday as they welcome the Gateway Gators, that Gators team rolling, although coming off of a loss this past week. But Gateway has all sorts of firepower. I would expect a lot of points will be scored at Norwin High School on Friday night. A game that I talked about with Coach Ron Prady, Greater Latrobe at McKeesport. Another litmus test for the Wildcats. I think to a man that they were kind of disappointed that they didn't have a more competitive showing against Thomas Jefferson. That game kind of just got away quickly from them late in the first half. So a chance against a very unique offense in McKeesport to show that they have made some strides and that they can hang with the best teams in 4A. Also, a Westmoreland County battle that I have a lot of eyeballs on it. Bell Vernon area at Southmoreland. No doubt that the Leopards are going to be heavy favorites once again. We'll see if the Scotties can have any success against Matt Humbert's crew. Mount Pleasant area at South Allegheny. Vikings, I believe, would guarantee themselves a playoff spot with a victory against the Gladiators. Valley at Freeport. Amani Christian at Ligonier Valley as the Saints continue their upward trend. They seemingly have found a stride here in the second half of the season. It'll be a tough one for Roger Beidel and crew. Same can be said for Benny Hoffer's team, the Yacht Cougars. They host the Steel Valley Ironmen, and Donald Barksdale just continues to put up dominant performances every week. I think this will actually be a pretty good test for Greensburg Central Catholic. They welcome Riverview. The Raiders can run the football, and so Centurions, I think, clearly have more skill. But going against a team that likes to run it with pretty good success, I think the Raiders will at least challenge John Thompson's crew at GCC. Mapletown at Monessen, and non-conference Kiski area at Fox Chapel. That was the lone win for the Cavaliers a year ago when they knocked off the Foxes. Now they're trying to win 2 straight games and build some momentum heading into what could be a crucial Week 9 matchup for Kiski area.
And that's certainly a winnable game for the Cavaliers, Sean. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. Fox Chapel has been down. So for Kiski area, you got to win that game. Hope some things fall in your favor. And then maybe Week 9, you'll have a chance to potentially control your own destiny. Lastly, the college ledger for this weekend. IUP at Seton Hill. We'll have that one, 3:00 kickoff. Crimson Hawks down a little bit. It's crazy to say that they're down, but I guess that's kind of a relative term for their high standards. Again, Seton Hill, second brutal opponent in as many weeks for the Griffins after they lost at Cal U last week. And then St. Vincent at Grove City, that on Saturday at 1:00. Well, Flick, as we get near the end of the regular season, we start to really have a good gauge for which games have significance. It feels like a lot of them do this week, but I will say that this is just the appetizer, because Week 9 every single year is always a special. That's really, in terms of conference, that is rivalry week, the final week of the regular season. And we know, especially for some of our teams here in Westmoreland, a lot will be on the line.
It is going to be wild next week. We're already looking at trying to get some additional video coverage for some of the games next week, because Franklin Regional Penn Trafford's going to be incredible. You have Jeannette Clareton playing, which, last year it wasn't maybe a big game, but, with the emergence of Jeannette, this year will be a gigantic game. Southmoreland and Mount Pleasant. Derry might be playing for a playoff spot against Ligonier Valley in the last game of the year. What are we calling that? I'm from Derry. I don't even remember.
Oh, yeah. They had
Battle of the Ridge or something.
Yeah, they came up with that name. That's right.
Rumble on the Ridge or something like that. I don't know. But I'm probably, Hempfield Norwin also playing, and that's always a big, rivalry game, even if playoff implications aren't on the line.
And by the way, we should note there's a little storyline there in that game as well.
Yeah, that's true. Just
head
a little one.
Who was at Hempfield area, who's now at Norwin.
Let's not overlook Mike Brown. That's for sure. So, next week's going to be insane. But that doesn't mean we don't want you to tune into all the broadcasts this week either, because that is the stepping stone, Sean, to get to that next week. So it should be entertaining. And don't forget, I know that there's some games, obviously, we can't cover them all, but we do cover them in terms of Sean's written recaps, scores. We tweet scores from other games that we're not even covering. Keep track of the score on our website as well, so you can follow along on all the other games. And hey, how about the WPIAL soccer brackets? Were also playoff brackets were also released earlier this week. So we're really moving forward here with our fall sports.
Yeah, it's the time of year. Halloween draws closer, and that means that you got playoffs for soccer. We're going to have girls volleyball getting underway soon enough, but everyone, of course, on Fridays and sometimes on Saturdays, if you make it deep enough in a season, always have eyes on the gridiron. And so that's what we're trying to cover here each and every week, all the great stories, whether it be individual players, coaches, teams collectively across Westmoreland County. That'll do it for this edition of Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We want to thank our guests, Ron Prady, the head coach of the Greater Latrobe Wildcats, and Carson Heinley, the quarterback for the Kiski Area Cavaliers. But for my colleague Dan Flickinger, Sean Meyers signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you again next week, Wednesday at 7, right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network's Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Have a good night.